Hi,
Hey,
babes. Welcome back to the Chase Life with Kelly show. I am your host, Kelly Chase. I have a local Atlanta expert on the podcast with me today, Heather McKerrow. Welcome to the show.
thank you so much for having me, Kelly. Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, she's my friend too, but she is an expert in so many different ways. Like we connected, we met at like a I didn't eat. I was gonna say at like a dinner one night, but I didn't even eat. But some cocktails with some other girls, and that was like almost 2 years ago, I think, when we
Yeah,
did.
it was just after I think you finished filming and we were just out and yeah, it was in my cocktail era and
Yeah.
just seemed to connect well. So I'm so glad we kept in touch and can just have this conversation today because we're in a completely different place now, both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And what's wild too, we had, I want to say like a mutual friend, but it was literally her sister. I had done workouts with her sister years ago at Turn Studio. And like I was watching Heather's like Instagram and I was like, wait a second, how and your sister was in your pictures. And I was like, oh my God, they're sisters. Like, holy
So
cow, what a small world.
That's so funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister was a big Turn fan from when they first opened, and
Yes. Oh,
she moved to Midtown. I think it became hard, but that was a great spot to get on your fitness journey, man.
yeah, it definitely was. But yeah, it's been a pleasure just connecting with you, learning more about you. It's been very like, I want to say too, like reflecting, like me, like you know how everyone's like a mirror reflection. There are things that I have learned. Like I feel like this, I was just talking to you about this, like how social media has been kind of challenging for me because, and I just posted this recently too, that I feel like I haven't been showcasing my true potential on my Instagram. Like you meet me in person, you have me elsewhere, or if you kind of catch me off guard on Instagram, then I'll be like in my flow and in my zone of genius. But over the last year, I have seen so much of myself in you. And it's just reflecting back to me like she's so authentic. She's so in her power. She's so like, and Kelly, we want to be this too. It's been really cool. And I wanted to say that to you just to tell you for one, but also to share with the audience. Like I know that some people can you can like envy or be jealous of other people and you start comparing your life to them, but really use it as a tool to be like, no, this is reflecting something back to me that I want to learn and grow from. What is it that is being reflected back to me? And so you've been that for me. So thank you.
Aw, you gave me goosebumps. I receive because honestly, that's beautiful. You said that. I think all of us, especially women that tend to be on the same frequency, we do that for each other. That's how we support each other. I know I see myself in you often. We talked about it. I remember around Christmas time, just the struggle with posting something, the struggle with having a good picture. That is it too sexy? Is it too hot? Am I feminine enough? Or like am I posing correctly where it's not a certain way? And I just appreciate like how you've always been authentic in that. And, we need that because one of the biggest issues I think on social media is that we're acting more robotic and more AI and less human. And I'm like, how can we become more human? And literally, so when I post stuff, sometimes I'm like, I feel crazy because I don't know that other people are doing this, but then sometimes you get caught in it. So I know I follow the same trap, but I'm just thankful for you too because you've also reflected for me. So
Thank you. Yay, thanks. I received.
of
So
course.
I wanted to bring Heather on for a couple of different reasons. One, I want the audience to get to know her, her story, her spiritual journey. Like I said, she reflects a lot back to me. And she's just very in her power, while also, which I feel like could be healing for other people. I feel like it can be helpful in healing to other people. While also, I said that she's an expert also with peptides. And I feel like peptides have been controversial because people are like peptides and Ozempic and people are abusing the the method, the modality, I guess. I don't know if we want to use the word drug or not, but I wanted Heather to come on because I have personally three people, two of which I have mentored under. One girl I had, or I'm say, oh, two of the three. Yeah, like three people that I just look highly up to. In the last like 3 months have all come out on Instagram saying that they have been using peptides.
Mm.
And granted, I knew one woman, she was like postpartum, the other one had suffered from Lyme disease, and she has been on a very like plant medicine journey with that. But she still was just not in a happy place with how she viewed herself. And then one of my direct coaches, like, kind of same thing. And I'm just like, wow, like, and their transformations are really profound right now. And I feel like the beautiful thing with it is that I have seen how happy and like they're just glowing at they're just so much more in love with themselves because of, and I'm not like, it's not about body shaming or anything like that. Like, people always used to say this to me, like I've always been a very petite person. I gained 30 pounds in 2015. Like, I'm 5'2". 5 pounds is a lot, quote unquote, for someone who's short and small.
Yeah.
And I had gained 30 pounds and I didn't like myself. And everyone's like, yeah, you got to fall in love with where you're at and all these things. And I'm like, I couldn't. Like, I did not like the person that I was. And even as I started losing weight, yeah, it felt so good, but the thing is, like, it wasn't necessarily only because, like, oh, I had a lot of extra weight on me. It was like I felt stiff. I felt unattractive. I felt all of these things that were not letting me love me. And as soon as I started to lose even more weight, I guess, I felt just more at peace with myself. So I feel like I can like connect with anyone who has gone through a weight loss, weight gain journey, because I get it. Those, you are transforming. Like, I felt like a completely different person at both levels. And I feel like I just understand that joy that comes like when you have such a transformation. Anyways, but I know too, like with the weight loss aspect of it, there are so many other health benefits. And you and I had gotten together about a month ago. And because I was like, I really want to educate myself on this, because I was, very hesitant and
Yeah, skeptical.
speculative. Yeah, I was very like, okay. But honestly, I think what did it was, and I feel like I shared the Instagram post, but like one of those mentors, like I said, had done it. And I was like, okay, wait a second. This person that I like look highly up to is doing this stuff. So, and they're really intelligent people. So like,
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyways, let's start first. We'll get into the peptide talk. But let's start first with your like story. Like, take us back to like younger you. How has your life transformed? Because I know you're sober right now
The
too.
beginning.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sober, California sober. I don't know the best way to describe it, but just not a fan of the brain numbing stuff. But no, it's beautiful. Thank you for the introduction. And honestly, just to touch a little bit on the peptides, they are like taboo sometimes, or they are like not what people think. And so I love the opportunity being able to kind of express that it's really about embodying who you are and getting to the core of that, at what makes you comfortable. It's not about a size. But yeah, so for me, my background is I actually grew up in Atlanta, kind of crazy, like in the city, born and bred. Went to a local high school, went away for undergrad, and then I went to PA school at Emory. I actually practiced as an anesthesia PA, which is a specific program that Emory did. And I worked at Piedmont Hospital and then Emory outpatient centers. I was married, had 2 kids, like married my college sweetheart. And I was at this inflection point in my life where I was pregnant with my second, and I was about 31 years old. And I remember literally like the moment of being in the laundry room. And I was like, moved in with my mom. We were trying to build a house. He was like out of town all the time. I was working this job at Emory, like I didn't love, like, right. I was like doing 3 8-hour shifts a week. Like it wasn't that bad, right? I'm practicing anesthesia. It can't be that bad. You're making good money. And I was like, I literally feel like I could fall off the face of the earth and it wouldn't matter. Like it was just such a moment for me. I'm like, what is life? Like why do I feel this way if I have everything you think that you need when you check boxes, right? And it makes me sad to think about who that girl was, because I know so many women are that women. And I know that we go through life just trying to like do what everybody thinks we're told to do. I mean, I basically think I went to PA school because I wanted to impress my mother and my stepdad, who was an orthopedic surgeon. And I think I, got married because he was safe, because, my dad and mom got divorced and I knew my husband then wouldn't leave me, but we weren't in love, right? I had kids because that was the next thing on the list. And so I was like sitting in this moment and I'm like, what do I do? Like, why do I feel this way? And at the time I kind of had reached out to my ex-husband and it wasn't met with the best engagement. But it kind of made me think, like, honestly, I was like, okay, I need to dive deeper. Like, what makes me happy? What sparks joy inside of me? And I realized that there was something inside that, like, I loved being creative. I loved being an entrepreneur. And when you practice anesthesia, you're doing the same thing every day. Literally, like, come in, put somebody to sleep, wake them up, right? And unless the patient's not having a great day because something goes wrong, like your day is very like hamster wheel. And just unfortunately for me, like I've always been a creative person, that was painful. And I was subduing that creative part and it wasn't able to come out, and it was coming out with depression. It was coming out with anxiety. It was coming out with like drinking alcohol. It was coming out with like, okay, we should get a babysitter and like go out, and I don't want to think about what's going on. And then I decided to blow my life up. So about a year later, after I had my son, he was born in 2018, I started like falling into the path of entrepreneurship, started getting funding for a startup. And I finally had enough funding in February of 2020. And I put in a 90-day notice in my anesthesia job. Well, the problem with that is, as we know, COVID was a month later. And so all that funding got pulled, and then I was left without a job. So I ended up being the person that was putting, people to sleep in the COVID ICU for 2 months, because I was like, please keep me on your staff. And at that point, I kind of realized that corporate world I was in did not really care. Like I was like, I'm gonna have to sell my house. I have 2 kids. Like, how am I gonna put food on the table? And they like wouldn't even email me back, And so, which I totally understand. There was a lot going on, but when you do outpatient surgery, they just didn't need us. So I quit my job, sold my house, and literally was like, what do I do? And that's what started my world of regenerative medicine. And I got into stem cells, I got into peptides, I got into laboratories. I kind of had opened a COVID testing center that helped people that wanted to go back to work, or they wanted to travel, or they wanted to enjoy life, not for sick people. And I realized that there was this like niche for concierge medicine. There was this niche for people needing a service that general healthcare didn't offer. So there's all these insurance things, right? And that was my world for 10 years. And then there's this world of like really cool stuff that insurance doesn't cover.
Right.
Like, how do we get these easy access to people? And how do we make people understand that these are cool options that aren't that expensive, that you don't have to leave the country for? And like, COVID was even one of them, because people didn't know you could go get a COVID test, for $150, not use your insurance, because you wanted quick turnaround and you wanted it to be quick and easy, right? And then submit it later. So that's kind of how I got started. I started on a spiritual journey as well during the process. As you know, those are up and down. You'll start, you'll fall off, and you come back, and then now I'm full bore, like breath work. I love plant medicine. I'm just like a big fan of empowering women to find their purpose. I think when I started working with peptides and when I started working with stem cells, I was talking to clients one-on-one because I wanted to learn. I just wanted to hear how they were like taking the peptides. What does it do, not just for your body physically, but mentally? Are you starting to have sex again with your husband? Do you feel sexy in the mirror? Like, do you love your energy levels? Like, how do you feel about drinking less? Like what's going on in your body? And I loved that piece. And I find that when you can, in spiritual journey, it's similar. So plant medicine, it's like, you're empowering someone else. I don't have the power, you have the power. And then you get to shift how you feel about yourself.
I love that. So
A lot
true.
to swallow. Sorry.
No,
Maybe.
no, it's perfect. No, I love that so much. I feel like what you just said too about just like empowering. We all like one of my mentors, she always used to say, like, you go first, and it's
Yeah.
so true. It's like, Heather, you are on this journey, and as I mentioned, like your reflection to me, you're reflecting yourself back to other people. You're not forcing anyone to do it. You are leading yourself to lead others. And I think
Wow.
that's a very powerful thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Goosebumps is always my sign, and I
Yeah,
got it.
you like
You said
goosebumps.
it. But
No,
it's
it's
true. We're learning as we go. We're an expert, but we're only an expert up until what we know, and we're leading people that desire that and crave that, right? To kind of, we want them on our frequency. We want more people to be up here with us because there's plenty of room. There really is, and it's what I love is that there's 7 degrees of connection, not separation. Like we aren't meant to be different from one another. We aren't meant to sit here and say like, I could outdo you. It's like, no, you have skills I don't have. And
right.
you don't have, and the person next door, and we are one big community, and together we create a beautiful process. And that's what I love about client interaction. I'm sure you love that too when you talk with your fans and people and mentors. Even is like you gain a relationship, and that's the best part about business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because I started, like, I've been in and out of corporate life and doing my own thing, over the last 6 years probably. And it's been fascinating. Like my most recent career that I'm an account executive, and that's all it is. It's about relationship building and fostering and managing and, just making sure that I'm their go-to person. And it's so much of this position, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but like when you step into the entrepreneurial space and things don't work out, it's like we think more I believe that we think more of how other people are going to perceive us, right? Like, oh, they're going to think I failed. I'm not good at what I do. That's why it didn't work out, things like that. And I've been in that place. That's why I have had, I've been in and out of corporate a few times. I mean, transparency, I don't feel like what I was doing before had um enough passion behind it. I think my passion has evolved over the years. So I think I was trying to hold on to something that wasn't aligned anymore, while also just didn't have the correct structure and system behind it. I feel like everything needs that, like a foundation. But with that said, the entrepreneurial journey for me has been so interesting. And I had to get a job at the end of 2022. Like I was running out of money. I was like, I need to go back in the corporate world where I have something to regulate my nervous system with a consistent paycheck. And it has turned out to be such a beautiful blessing for me because it has reflected back to me what I'm really good at. And it's those
Yeah.
relationships, it's being in person. Like I would like, that's kind of like with the podcast, I enjoy it. And I'm like, well, I would rather be in person with you, doing it, or like doing more speaking events, or just even if it's just like appearances, just going, being more social in environments that are empowering and uplifting. Because you never know who you're going to meet and who needs that community and your vibration and all of that. So, but anyways, all that to say, it's just been like a really big blessing, like being in
Yeah.
a position while still, like, I feel like it's very much in alignment with the other things in my life that I'm doing.
Well, and the thing is, it's not a one size fit all. And like, there's so much of this, like, for a few years, there was this like hustle era, right? Where it's like, you got to go and you got to be a full in entrepreneur. And like, I don't know if I believe that either. That's not
Right.
necessarily for everyone because there is so much to gain from a corporate world, from a corporate relationship. Like, and you learn so much. So these, 23-year-olds, I'm not saying they can't go be an entrepreneur, but you have to like learn some stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have to own some businesses and then meet with clients to even learn more. And then on top of that, the more mistakes you make, the better you are. So, just like, and those aren't cheap, by the way,
No.
made quite a lot of those, or worked with the wrong person or whatever. Right. And you're just like, wow, that was 2 years of my life. But the more you do that, the better you are. And I just think there is no like one size fits all. Like what works for you and fuels your soul and makes you happy is what you should be doing. That's it. If it feels right and my indicator for if something's right or like wrong is it sticky or is it flow? And if it's sticky, there's always resistance, like, right? It's like, it's never going right. Like I kind of had a bad day multiple days in a row, like not, just one or two, like it's just consistently hard for me to make progress in that world. And then if it flows, you're going to have a bad day here or there, or things are going to come up. But overall, like the world and the energy is pushing you towards that. Like it's saying, keep going, keep going. You're in the right place. At some point, that might not be right in a year, right? Say you are doing more speaking engagements. You'll have a sign from the universe. Like I truly believe that. And it'll be stickiness, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what was happening. I mean, I was health coaching. I mean, for 10 years almost. And my last health coaching client that I worked with was in January, February of this year. And I really let their membership, like, I wasn't trying to renew their membership, let's put it that way, because I was just like, I cannot, I'm done signing off. I'm resigning as a health coach. Like, I will talk about health all day, but I do not want to be coaching women on their like nutrition and that type of thing. Like, and I want to say like in 2018 was the first time I worked with a mindset coach and a business and mindset coach. And I remember when I completed my one-on-one program with her, it was 4 months long. I remember saying to her, I want to do what you do. Like whatever you just did to me was so profound. I want to do that. I don't give a rat's ass what people are eating anymore. And what was that? 2018. Now it's 2024.
Wow.
So like for 5.5 years, I still held on to that health coaching because I was like, it's what I know. It's what I'm good at. But is it really lighting me up? And so for 6 years, I was in the sticky mud. It's hard, but also, during those 6 years, I will say this, like during those 6 years, we filmed the show airs, like all the things. And I was sticky for those 6 years on multiple levels in so many different areas. I mean, every inner child wound popped up. I mean, people pleasing to the max. Like there was just so much that it's like, if you want to heal yourself, go on a freaking reality TV show. It will show everything. It will make you feel your shit, or you don't have to. But I mean, that's how my experience was. And I'm just like, these last 6 months have been like an evolution. I have felt so much more embodied in who I am. Granted, like I was saying earlier too, it's like, yeah, do I still have some like insecurities or anxiousness around like social media and the algorithm and how I show up and everything? And I mean, honestly, I just posted quasi political, like something on my story. And I literally, like the next story, I was like, I don't share controversial things very often because I think it just creates more drama out there, like unnecessary drama. But also I'm a recovering people pleaser and I hate getting hateful messages and shaming messages. I don't. I like hate it. Absolutely hate. Like I will immediately block you. Like do not. Yeah. I leave no room for discussion. Like don't want it. But and I said, but I have a voice and I'm here to use it. So it's like, okay, like, and I feel good. I feel good about posting that. Whereas 2 years ago, I probably would have like been like, oh shit, I should probably delete that.
I shouldn't have done that.
I'm scared. People aren't going to like me. I'm going to lose 100,000 followers. Like, I don't really care.
Isn't it funny how like 10 days later too, we'll totally forget about it. Like, you'll be posting all this stuff and like scared to post it. And then you're like like you literally forget that you even did it because it's not even a thought because it didn't change anything. And the thing is that people that are in alignment with you that's who you want to be following you anyways. Right. And if you're not, like I always say, I'm either here to trigger you or I'm here to like in one way or another. I'm either triggering you to be excited about your life or I'm triggering you because maybe something I said bothered you, but maybe you needed that woken up and I'm not getting anything out of it, but you are. So either way, like if you're triggering someone, I always think that's like actually what we're meant to do in this world. I had a one-on-one with a shaman like earlier this year. And I remember like, he was like, that was his big thing to me. It was exactly what you're saying. He's like, you are not here to make people happy. You are here to trigger them. And I was like, what? That's a lot.
Yeah.
But you are because they're on their own journey and they need to be woken up and they need to be sparked. And sometimes it's always not that encouragement. It's kind of the like, oh, I don't like her. And then they're like, well, why don't I like her? What didn't I like about that? And then it makes them think about their own life. and maybe the decisions they're making. But we just can't take it personal,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, I know. So I was like, whatever. Maybe it's the what was it? Hape? Is that what I did a month ago?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you did
Maybe
that.
that's why I was like, screw it. I don't care. I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
Yeah. It was so fun. So just to give the listeners a background, Kelly came to, I had a birthday party this year that was wellness based. So we did breath work. We did it at a wellness studio that had like red light therapy and a sauna, and they had meditation pods. It was called Wello Works. It was awesome. And then we had a shaman there that administered something called Hape. And we also did a sound bath. And so it was just a cool community, the people that showed up. It's just a different kind of birthday party, right? It's not a dinner out. There was we had some alcohol-free wine and really healthy bowls. And it was so cool you did the hape. I felt like I was like, do you want to try it?
Yeah, I
But
had a little
yeah,
weird experience with it, but I will try it again.
yeah. It's very for those of you listening, it's a tobacco, it's indigenous. And so people have been using it for, thousands of years, and it clears out your pineal gland, which sits right in the forefront of your brain. And what's nice about that is like you're getting this clear-mindedness. You're feeling all of a sudden just clarity. Honestly, that's the best way to describe it. But when they do it, it's a rush. It's a rush of intensity. It can give you chills. It can make you dizzy. For me, it can be hard to stand up for the next 2 to 3 minutes. But I immediately, if I'm off with my husband, like if we're off on frequency, we're like, we should do some hape, because everything is about frequency. And how we're showing up is the frequency we're at. And so how can I'm always like, what am I doing that's like lowering my vibration? Because I don't want to be at this low vibration, because that's shame, that's guilt, that's anger. I want to be like happy, and like that's internally what we are. We're internally happy, good beings that just want to like live. Like there's nothing more to do than just live. Like we just have to be ourselves. And people think they have to put this mask on, and it's like, no, you just need to be more you. And we need to peel back the layers, and things like hape, psilocybin, um, breath work are things that can peel those layers back in a very healthy way. I even think peptides are in that category, just because what you said up front, they make you feel like you, or the people that have taken them, you saw them feel more like them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say too, like it was interesting because when I did the hape, how I felt like immediately was how I felt when I did a 40-minute breathwork session. And hopping is very much faster. It's like a minute. Like
Yeah.
it was very interesting, the familiarity that I felt with the two, the clarity, the letting go, the emotional release, like all of that. That was cool. That was
It's
really
so cool. And I don't know if we want to do like a quick 3-minute breath work, but we could, because and we could cut this part
yeah,
out if we don't want it, but it'd be so fun, because even if the listeners are doing it and you just take the 3 minutes,
yeah.
it's pretty intense. So my
Awesome.
favorite would be if we do, I'll set a timer really quick. So we'll do 4 seconds in, hold for 7, and out for 8. Now, when you breathe in, nasal breathing is usually the best, and then out through your mouth. And then when you out breathe, the best thing to do is just full body out breathe. So if you're listening, you can even do it while driving. Just don't close your eyes.
Right. Be safe.
Okay, ready? Set, hold, in, hold, out, in, out. In. Out. About 1 minute left. In. Out. We'll do 2 more. In. Last one, make it your best one. Audible exhale. Ah. I really take my tongue out in my head. It always feels so good.
It's a thing. It's a
How's
beautiful.
that feel?
It's good. It's good. I love the 4 square, like the box method or whatever. Like it's so great.
Yeah, the box is good. The 4 4 4 4. The
Like
4 7 8 is good for like learning how to hold your exhales and like building up some CO2. So what's interesting is there's one of my favorite books, and it's a free Audible actually on Spotify, called Breath by James Nestor. Wonderful book, but it teaches you about nasal breathing, actually the advantages to mouth taping at night. But the more CO2 you can build up, the better, because actually the reason we're never actually like needing more oxygen, we're actually just needing to build that up, and we're needing to recruit more cells in our lungs. And so by building up that CO2 and learning how to make your exhales longer, or the the breath hold longer, you're really like developing your skills. And lung capacity is directly correlated with mortality. You think of these old frail people, they just don't have any lung expansion. Somebody that gets sick, right? Even the people that did die of COVID, it was a respiratory disease at some point, right? It wasn't the virus, it's what is happening in their lungs. So the better we can use our lungs, which it's totally free, everybody can do it. And it just takes what we did 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And instantly I feel like, like,
oh yeah, yeah. And it presences us. So like, you're not in your head about anything. You shouldn't be when you're presenced on the breath work itself. So that's
yeah.
the
Where did you do your breath work when you did do it?
So the first time I ever did it was with the woman who trained my business and mindset coach to do it, Samantha Scally. She's been on the podcast too, but she like trademarked her. It's called now I'm blanking. Breathe. Can't remember. Anyways, but she trademarked it, and I was at a women's conference like in 2018, and it was just like one of the things, people were doing yoga. It was like one of the workshops or whatever, and she did the triactive breath work, which I had never done before. It was only like 15 or 20 minutes, but I still released some tears. But then when I had Erin, I was actually laying in my guest bedroom. She was on a Zoom call in San Diego, and he was going through the pause breath work is the name of Samantha Skelly's. Sorry. So pause. And anyway, so she was getting her breathwork facilitator like certification. So she needed, guinea pigs to like work on. And I was like, yeah, sure, sign me up, whatever. It was 40 minutes, and I was crying as if I just watched my mother die. Knock on wood. Like, was so intense. I almost was like, and I'm laying flat on my back. So it was almost like I was like almost like choking on my like snot, because it was so much like, and my body was like, when I came to, I was like drenched in sweat, but shivering. I was so cold.
Yeah.
It was really, really powerful. And I've done it since then a handful of times, probably like 10 times. Not just with Erin, but like some other facilitators that I've grown to know as well. I really believe that any type of breath work is great. I do love the triactive, and I don't do it probably nearly enough as I need to, quote unquote, but every once in a while I'll be like, I feel like I need to release an emotion that I can't voluntarily make myself. Like, cause sometimes like I know I need to cry, and I know like I am not practicing what I preach sometimes, in the sense of like when I feel like a pit in my throat, like I'm about to cry, and I like dismiss it and I shove it down, and I'm like, Kelly, just cry. But then I'm like, I can't cry.
Yeah.
Watch like a movie to like make myself cry or something like that. But the pit happens quite often. Like I'm actually a very emotional person, especially a week and a half before my period. Like I am, the littlest thing will like make me like feel emotional inside. And I'm like, oh my God, why am I crying?
It's a beautiful thing. I think it's beautiful when we don't suppress our emotions. We're meant to be emotional. Like I said, we're not robots. So it's beautiful if you can let it out. And if not, then that's okay. That maybe wasn't the time, place. But that is a connection for us. My step into spirituality was a breathwork session on accident. So it was 5 minutes, just like you. I was in a room, and I was kind of hungover, and like just not, it was around that time I was going through what I explained early on, and that inflection point in my life where I realized I was like not in the right place at the right time, and just not feeling aligned with myself. And I just was like sitting in there, and this woman gets up on stage and like just had us breathe, and it was a Wim Hof type breath, like a
Yeah.
and literally within 5 minutes, like you said, like uncontrollably, like couldn't stop. And I was like, that's everything I've ever shoved down. Like everything, literally. And I was like, oh my God, it's not stopping. Like I couldn't get it to stop. I had to leave, go sit in the bathroom for 10 minutes. And then I followed her, went to a one-on-one set, or not a one-on-one, but she would hold these circles, and would go to her on a Friday night. And I just was like, I don't know what's coming out of me, but I felt like I levitated out of my body. Like you said, I was freezing 1 minute, hot the next. Like breath is so powerful, and it's available to everyone. But I, like you, like I'll forget. And that's why I commit myself to going on like one retreat every 6 months, like a women's retreat for 3 to 4 days of breath work, of like some kind of circleness, and they are like a little expensive. They're always during a weekend you have a wedding. They're always during a weekend like my kids have soccer games, but like I still go because it's the only way that I feel like I truly like reset and start to remember to use those things. Because whether we try to or not, we're picking up other people's energy all day. We just are. And because we're around it, the lights, the food we eat, other people are cooking it for us, right? Like, and putting their energy into our food that we're now getting on Uber Eats. And so there's just so many ways we can pick up energy, right? And so you have to do things to kind of reset yourself and to peel back those layers. And that's why I think, like you said, it's like, it's okay, we forget. It's just, if we can have the cry later, it's perfect.
Yeah. Like that intense breath work or hop bait, whatever I need to do, and let this shit out.
Yeah. I'll show you this Hape self-administer kit. You can actually self-administer Hape. So it's yeah, you have to get ready for it. But we actually did it on our wedding day, and it was beautiful. And she's like, oh my God. And luckily I've kind of like you, like, don't wear much makeup, so it wasn't a big deal, but I definitely cried. So I was sitting up at the little ceremonial, and we had it at the same time. And the way that Amanita explained it was like, you're going to be in a point in your life where you guys aren't going to be able to feel the ground. You're not going to be able to feel good. And we had to look into each other's eyes and just find that ground. And that was like what was so kind of symbolic and memorial and beautiful about it, because it was just kind of like that Hape feeling at first. You're like, holy, and then it was like, okay, stare into each other's eyes, start to breathe together, start to center. And so it was beautiful.
I love that. Yeah. So Heather just got married.
Yay.
When this episode airs, it'll be like a week and a half. I think it's gone by. Yeah.
So yeah, the September 5th. And what's crazy is manifesting the man that I knew I was gonna have at one point, and how quick it's happened. We met in February, and married, 7 months later. But I knew like what I wanted. And I think that's what was so important, is I wasn't necessarily looking for a partner that could fit it. I knew that I had to work on myself. I went and did a retreat in Costa Rica. with some plant medicine. In November, I had gotten sober in October, the month, of 2023, and, fell off for about a month in December, but overall was just constantly like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Like, what kind of retreat can I go on? And I just kept calling him in. I was literally like, I call in a companion that fits comfortably with the life I want to live. And I was saying it over and over and over again because the men that were just in my life were not fitting that mold. And with 2 kids, I was like ready to find the right person that was wanting to settle down and build this family and just enjoy life with. Like I wanted somebody that wants to cook with me and romanticize my home life. Like I don't want to be going on dates and like on all these trips. I want like to feel romantic at home. Like, does that make sense? Like I want candlelight dinners and like really good food that's cooked and we like lay on the couch and we read books together and we just talk about life and that's who he is. And I'm like, I don't know how I did it, guys, other than that saying and just keeping my head down. But I'm so blessed. I'm so glad you got to meet him.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
so
he was,
good.
I felt it, I was like, yeah, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, it was crazy when we met, and it was like one of those things where the world literally put us together. We met in Honolulu, and half float the world away and like have no friends in common, nothing, like no reason for us to meet. We don't, neither one of us were going out and drinking, but that night we both had to for a friend's wedding or my sister's wedding and his friend's sister's wedding. And so we were out at this place like, and just ended up like getting that world collision. And we look at it and we're like, we were both leading up to it, setting up our lives to meet though. He was doing the same thing on his end. He was there for like a men's wellness retreat where they were doing breath work and all this stuff. He had just put his stuff in storage, like broken up with a relationship that wasn't fitting for him, like switched jobs. Like it was just like all these things. And it's like the world was doing, like, it's always working in your favor. I'm always like, the world is working in your favor if you let it, if you let it.
You let it. No, absolutely. Otherwise, remember, guys, we want to feel flowy, not sticky. Remember that.
Flowy.
Relationships too.
Yeah. I'm always like, you literally get to relax. The world will do it for you. It will.
Sure. And I know you and I have talked about this. I got to do a little bit more of that, but we're on the right. I totally thought that you guys met at your sister's wedding, like that he was a guest of like her husband's, but he was there like totally separate.
Totally separate.
Oh, I totally thought he was
Actually,
guest
and
of
yeah.
too.
He was not even supposed to be on that island. So we met the day before. We were in Honolulu for her bachelorette party, and he was at a bar, and she was like, because he was there with his friends, and like they were all celebrating because his sister was getting married literally on the same day, same time, and his sister's new last name was going to be Diamanda, and my sister's new last name was Diamond. I was like, is this a joke in the universe? Hilarious. So but we don't even know any of this at the time. We just meet. But my sister's like, Heather, he's cute. You should talk to him. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't do that. Like, we're at a bar. Like, I'm not, like, he's probably a bar guy. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, and we're in Honolulu. Like, where is this going to go? But we had to leave from Maui, which was in the wedding the next day. But we basically took a chance. And we met for breakfast the next morning because there was this very serendipitous thing that happened after we had an interaction where he ran into a friend in New Jersey that he hadn't seen since he was 10 years old, literally talking to my friend. So like made no sense why we should have met back together after we separated ways. And so we met for breakfast and I was like, holy shit, like no idea how old you are, no idea where you're from. Like we didn't talk about anything. We talked about the world and how we love clean water and we love whole food and, wellness. And I like, we didn't even get into it. And I'm like, I've got to get on a flight to Maui. Like I have to go get my sister married in 4 days. And so I flew to Maui and he's like, meet me in Kauai for 24 hours. And I was like, all right. So I flew to Kauai. So our second date was literally 24 hours in Kauai. And I'm telling you, it was like those serendipitous or like deja vu moments all day where you're like, I've done this before, we're like in a van, we're grocery shopping, we're like driving this massive vehicle on an island we've never been to. And there's like easy. I'm like, how is that your second date?
Oh.
So I was like, well, you have to come to the wedding now and meet my entire family.
Oh.
So date 3 was the wedding. Yeah.
Oh.
Insane.
How cool is that?
It was so cool. It's like the coolest story. And there's so many more like nuances to it that are just like beautiful. Like our first kiss was under like a private waterfall, like it's just like stupid. Like God's like, don't go back to anything else. Like this is it.
I am showing you what you want and what you
Yeah. Like, I know you have tendencies, Heather. Here we go. This one. Like, I'm gonna make it really hard. And just even like I said, the way he allows me to be feminine, which I think is what a masculine true male is, because we're both feminine and masculine. And when we're at work, we're definitely more masculine, right? But as a single mom, I've had to be much more masculine even in the home life. And I was really looking forward to that moment where I could be more feminine in a relationship. And I love that. That's like, where sometimes he'll be like, and I'm like, okay. But we have that's like what I wanted.
Yeah, that's so incredible. That's so
Thank
cool.
you. So there's hope for everybody that is
Yeah.
looking. And like just what's so crazy is I told that story to a friend of mine, Tiffany, and she used to date somebody like pretty popular on the internet, or like forget what he does. Like he's a radio personality. But she's like, Heather, I literally went home and I said that over and over again. And I was just like, God, please send me. She said literally in her inbox, like she showed me the timestamps. It was like 2 hours later and he popped up and it was like a man. And like they have been on this like cloud to like nowhere. So I'm like, it kind of works.
It does. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to like re-listen to this and like take that in again.
I call in a companion that fits comfortably with the life I want to live.
I call in a companion that fits comfortably with the life I want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And then believing it exists, like not settling. Like if something feels sticky, don't stay with it,
Absolutely. I agree.
That's the biggest
Oh my God.
thing.
Thanks for sharing all of that. I'm like so like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Even like before we met too, like that weekend, like I was under a full moon and like doing like I was like, okay, I want this. Like, and I was writing it down. So it's just like that consistency. I think like as we talked about, the universe wants to work in your favor. And if you write it down, if you say it, if you believe it, it will come to fruition.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
Oh my God. Okay, so we'll get into the peptide talk now.
Yes. Sorry, guys.
I love talking to you. Okay, so like I said, I feel like people have a misconception of what peptides is, what Ozempic. Can you explain the difference if there is one, and also go into the benefits around peptides that are not just weight loss?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for asking, because a lot of people don't know what peptides are. They've heard it and they're like, what is this? Is it only Ozempic? Is it only that? So peptides are basically short chains of amino acids. If you think of a protein, it's a long chain of amino acids. So what's beautiful about them is they're naturally occurring in our body. And that's why it falls into what's called regenerative medicine, which is something that means like my own body wants to heal itself. And so when I started getting away from pharmaceuticals and anesthesia, I was like, wow, this is such a cool concept, because it's a lot harder to hurt somebody, right? Or cause harm long term if their body naturally makes it, right? Now, it falls kind of in that close category. People have heard of hormone replacement therapy. A lot of women are like, my hormones are all over the place. Well, yes, they are, because we drank coffee for breakfast, did Orange Theory for way too long, and decided not to eat all day. And so we've kind of met, and our cortisol levels spike. And so hormones are kind of up and down. But the thing is that there's precursors to hormones in our body. And so we can sometimes fix hormones. It's a lot harder when they get out of whack. But what's nice is by taking peptides, you're not ingesting hormones or taking hormones that are now like your body's going to stop making them. So they're very safe. They're very effective. They're naturally occurring. And if you start taking them and decide to stop, no harm, no foul. The biggest take homes are, sorry, cooking. One, you want to have a good source for peptides. So they're not all created equal, just like facial products, just like Botox, you don't want the cheapest, you don't want the best but sometimes the cheapest might be the best. It just depends. you want to cycle on and off them. So it's best if you do go with a company or someone that's like has a provider centric or someone very knowledgeable in them, because you want them to understand how they work. Like not just a doctor that maybe is like, oh yeah, we have this now, your insurance covers it, it's great. Like, well, do you know how it works? Did you study this, right? And the leader in peptides has been semaglutide, Ozempic, Mounjaro, and Wegovy. The FDA cannot own a compound. So the compound is semaglutide, or the compound is tirzepatide. That is what the peptide or the peptide-like compound is. And so there really is no difference other than the FDA has trademarked Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy over here, or Zepbound. Those are the 4 trade names. What they have trademarked is the way it's administered, which is in that pen that people see.
Okay.
So when it's on a shortage list, what's nice is compounding pharmacies can make it available to you and me. So right now it's currently on a shortage list. You can go to a compounding pharmacy. You can know you're getting a decent product, especially if it's, vetted by people and trusted. And as long as the person knows how to tell you to take it, because it is self-administered, that's where people get into trouble. And they're not just like, take more, because as you see, that just grows their pockets. Then you're going to have a lot more benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Where I see benefits in semaglutide is that almost every single person is going to have some insulin misregulation. And that just means that I look at insulin like little army bodies. So when I eat or drink something that has any kind of sugar in it, or a carb that has any kind of sugar in it, it spikes my blood sugar. Now, when it spikes my blood sugar, my body's like, I don't like this. This is not good. And it releases these army bodies. And when it releases the army bodies, it can go in one of 3 places. The first is your liver cells. The second is your muscle cells, which are both limited. And the third is your fat cells. When it stores them in fat cells, it's unlimited. And this is why you can gain weight. Well, not only that, but when you have a rapid shift in blood sugar, so say I go from 70 to 300 because I ate something super sugary, I chewed a piece of gum, whatever it is that spiked my blood sugar quickly, my body overcompensates. It sends too much insulin. It drops my blood sugar too low. My body tells me, my brain again, you're hungry, eat again. It's actually just my blood sugar going like this all day. Not only is that very unhealthy, but it's where weight gain comes in, right? That weight gain can also cause inflammation. It can cause problems in neurodegenerative diseases, like you hear with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, because you're causing almost like, I know we keep using the word sticky, but you're causing stickiness in your brain. And so there are advantages to things like semaglutide and tirzepatide, even if it's not for weight loss, because literally our foods are crap. Like, not to be away, but there's sugar in everything. And I'm sure you've seen, because you've told me your mom is like super into food and all this stuff and what you guys eat. So there's a difference between when they cooked and when we cook. Yeah. There's a difference between what M&Ms even contain then and now, a Coca-Cola contain even now and then. And that is where we're seeing this massive weight gain. We're seeing people that just feel like zombies. They literally are tired. They feel like shit. They're constantly hungry. They can't keep their diet under control. And everything that's easy access is not good for you. And it's causing these massive spikes in blood sugar, and they just can't regulate it. So semaglutide and tirzepatide were created for some of the most unhealthy people in the country. If you think of a type 2 diabetic, they're usually overweight. They usually have other comorbidities or diseases. You think of like kidney disease, their kidneys start to kind of fail. They usually have sleep apnea, which means their brain doesn't get oxygen. And so they can have a lot of issues, even just sleeping. Now, this medicine was safe for them. It actually was created not for weight loss, but to regulate their blood sugar. And they saw the side effect was weight loss. Mm-hmm. So that's the beautiful thing about it. But there's microdoses of it that can really just make you feel good. Now, the issue comes in is when people get greedy, people abuse it, right? Because they still eat like the way we talked about, that's not healthy. Now my body got used to it faster. My body's still having to overwork insulin. Now I'm paralyzing my stomach because it does a few things in my body. It tells my brain I'm no longer hungry. It tells my stomach I'm full faster. It delays gastric emptying. And if you take too much of it, it's going to slow that process down. Of course, I'm going to have side effects. Of course, I'm not going to feel good. And so you just have to go when you're taking it with someone that knows what they're doing. Keep the dosing minimal. And I love stacking it with peptides that work on other processes in your body. There's over 7,000 naturally occurring peptides, literally. And so I look at it like you're renovating your kitchen. If you renovate your kitchen and I only do the countertops, but I leave the floors and I leave the appliances and I leave the walls and whatever, it's going to get me somewhere, right? Like I got somewhere. But if I can stack everything on kind of at once, or put a program together where I'm working now on my brain fog, I'm also working on my metabolism, because that semaglutide did nothing for my metabolism, right? What does my body do after I eat? Does it store it as fat, or does it utilize it as energy? It does nothing for that, right? It's just slowing down my gastric emptying. So I can work on my metabolism, my brain fog, my anxiety. I've taken peptides for anxiety. I've taken peptides to help me get off Adderall. And there's peptides that help with what I call overall wellness. It stimulates growth hormone and helps you sleep better and regulates your menstrual cycle. So now I'm working on some hormone regulation. And when you take all those at once and on a nice stack, man, it's like cooking with gas, you know?
Okay. So when you were like dumbing it down, you know how I would say people have mentioned things of like dizziness, nausea, losing their appetite. So can you speak a little bit more to those? So like why that happens, and is what you were saying about doing minimal amounts would prevent that from happening?
Usually minimal amounts. Hydration is another big one. We think we get very hydrated from water, but that's actually not the case. Hydration comes from minerals. And if our water doesn't have the right minerals in it, people can come to me and be like, I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm like, are you drinking the right kind of water? Alkaline water is best. I like LMNT. That's where dizziness comes in, because when you eat less, you tend to drink less, and that can happen. The other thing with headaches or dizziness can just be like you're not eating nutrients. You're like, oh, well, like I didn't eat much today, so I can eat this pizza. Your body needs those nutrients. It craves like what's in state. You know, I'm a big carnivore, so I eat a lot of meat. I can tell if in 2 days like I haven't had a lot of meat. I still eat veggies. I'm not full carnivore and fruit, but you know, some people like if they're lacking that protein or that fat. I always say the best breakfast on a GLP-1 on a and that's what it's called, glucagon like peptide. That's what semaglutide is avocado, eggs, would be a great breakfast, you know, because you're getting the fats, you're getting the protein, and maybe even like for lunch, a piece of chicken, like a nice piece of chicken, you know, with some hummus. You're getting like some nutrients and some calories. But if I'm, like I said, like, oh, I don't feel good, I don't feel like eating, and then I go to Chick-fil-A and I get like Chick-fil-A milkshake, then I'm probably not going to feel good.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And, you know, speaking to what I was saying about the mentors that I have worked with them sharing about their journeys on social media, that was something that I like am so inspired by these women. I love it. I think very highly of them. And it reinforced that because of the fact that they were saying, I did this, I'm using this, and I am strength training, and I am eating a very nutritious diet, and I'm doing my meditations, and I'm doing my breath work, and I'm doing all the things. Because it's just like when people have like gastric bypass surgery, or like, you know, and it's like, you get that, you lose weight, but you can't continue to eat like shit. You're just going to gain more weight. Like, like it's
Yeah.
hurting yourself. So it's everything has to work together in order for you to feel your best.
It's whole body, and you're 100% right. But what I do love about a peptide is it's typically the catalyst or the momentum to push them to do those things. Often, because what happens is when our cells get under stress, and and stress can come from anything. It doesn't have to be physical stress. It can literally be because we didn't sleep enough, we slept too much, we ate the wrong food, right? Anything. Our cells, when they're made under stress, get made in like a different way than typical. And what they do is they use energy instead of oxygen. They use 32 amounts of energy. So imagine if your cells are constantly made of stress, how much energy you have left? Like none, right? So people are just constantly in this almost this negative feedback loop of feeling like crap, needing to sleep more. I don't know why my body's not working. I eat right, I exercise, but my body's holding on to it because it's in this fight or flight. It's literally in like, I can't get out of this like stressful state, but it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's literally the way the world kind of set us up. I love peptides because they literally are like a momentum, a catalyst to kind of get you into this positive feedback loop of, okay, I slept really well. Okay, I'm making a little bit healthier eating choices because I'm not, that food noise is off. Okay, now I can meditate. Now I feel good when I get dressed. Now I maybe don't want to have that third cocktail because I actually want to go home and get sleep because I love how that makes me feel. And it's like this beautiful positive feedback loop where they can really, exactly what you're saying, get into that whole body mindset. Because when I talk to clients and I coach them, I'm like, you have to pay attention to these rules. Because I just don't want somebody to, I don't want somebody to fail in the way of like, oh, they spent all this money and then they feel like they wasted it. And it's like, look, I believe in you. You believe in you. That's why you're calling me. That's why we're talking. And so you obviously want to change for yourself and you deserve that change. It's never too late. It's never too early. It's perfect as it is. And so if you want that change right now, it's available to you, but there's no pressure because you have to be kind of ready to want these changes. I didn't know if I wanted to give up alcohol, to be frank, right? Like it was like one of those things that I identified with it. I went out, I enjoyed it. I never thought I got sloppy, but it was like just, I love a margarita. I love a glass of wine. And when I decided, I was like, no, I'm committing to something. I'm not going to say it's easy. Say hello. But it's one of those things where like, it's changed my life for the better. And I'm not saying everybody has to do that. But for me, it was something that was necessary.
Yeah. Or can you drink on peptides? Like will it make you feel weird? Like will it enhance
Yeah.
intoxication level? Like will you feel more tipsy or drunk faster? Like what does it do in that regard?
So the big thing alcohol does is it causes inflammation. And so I hate saying this, but it is like, it's essentially a poison. Your body has to figure out what to do with it, right? And so if you're eating right, you're drinking enough water, and you're on peptides and you have a glass of wine, you are absolutely okay. You know what I mean? Or you have a few cocktails and you go out. Now, if you're beating your body up because you're not giving any time off of that inflammation of drinking, lack of sleep. And what I mean by lack of sleep is well-rested, non-medicated sleep. I don't mean sleep because you took an Ambien. I don't mean sleep because you had 3 glasses of wine and got 8 hours. I mean, non-drugged sleep is very different. Your body can go into REM cycle, deep cycles, and that's when we recover. We only recover when we sleep, literally. So getting that unmedicated. So people can drink, but they just have to be, I love when they have like, oh, well, I take every third, I only drink every third or fourth day or once a week. I'm like, perfect. I'm a big fan of CBD. If you're in a state that, THC is legal, that's great. Psilocybin's a great option. If we can say that. There's certain states that allow that too. And then, I've switched to tea or like a non-alcoholic wine at night, which I love. We make these really cool mocktails that like you wouldn't even know the difference, and you can put some kava in it, which is also like gives you a little bit of a buzz. But I'm always like, there's better ways to get dopamine, to be honest. If that's what you're chasing, there's better ways to get dopamine, to be honest,
Definitely are. There definitely are. I mean, I haven't stopped, drinking, but it's far and few in between then
Yeah.
kind of thing. Or I'll have a drink or two, and like call it a night, like it's definitely,
Yeah.
because I do appreciate feeling really good the next day or even hours later, too. So
What happened with me is like, it wasn't like one specific thing, but it was honestly my interaction with my kids. They're like 5 and 8. And it was like, I'd have a babysitter that night, so I was not drinking with them. But the next day, I was like, I'm not doing the things that I would want to be doing to enjoy my kids. Like I'm either annoyed with them, which they're not doing anything wrong. They just want to play with me. Or I have this overwhelming anxiety because like I don't love like how I came home last night or who I talked to, or like, did I say anything sloppy? Like now I spent $300. I just, for me, that was kind of like, it was the anxiety, like honestly, and I don't feel like I'm an anxious person, but I was more like you said, like the next day, but I think I never want to shame anybody. So if somebody like is like, look, it's very hard for me, I'm like, semaglutide is actually a great way to help you stop, like, or drink less. It works really well the first few months you take it. It will never work that well again. So those first few months, if there's habits you are ready to kick, I say go all in. Like go all in and like trying to cut the sugar out, go all in and trying to cut the wine, go all in and trying to cut the, maybe it's just like the sugary drinks that you want to cut. Try that the first few months because you really won't want those back. And it really does make it hard to drink on because you just almost lose your taste for it.
I see. Okay. Huh.
So NAD is another really good one. NAD is like really good for cell turnover. And they used to use it in addiction therapy. And so NAD is great. It helps turn over those cells. I love pairing semaglutide with an NAD or something like that, because you're just like, now all of a sudden you have some energy and I feel better and I'm able to really kick that curb. Like for me, I just liked the glass of wine at night and I was like, but it's doing nothing for me tomorrow. Like it's literally doing nothing. So
yeah, it's true. It's even having a glass of wine or a cocktail, like it just slows you down,
yeah, it makes your body work in other ways when it could be doing other things. Like, especially if you're wanting to lose weight, especially if you're wanting to get that energy back, especially if you're wanting to maybe feel more motivated at work. Like, it's just going to slow that down. If you're wanting to slow down being anxious. And the problem with medicine is that it's become polypharmacy. Meaning I'm giving you one medication to give you and then it has side effects. And now you have to take another medication for those side effects. And now you have to take another medication. How do I ever get you off all these pharmaceuticals? How do I ever get you off an anti-anxiety, a sleeping pill, an Adderall, and, whatever else you're taking so that you can feel good, like, and not like a robot? And at what point do we stop? And that's when it's like, okay, well, what's causing these? Why do I need these? What makes me anxious? And so anytime I want to drink or I want that thing, I have to think of like, what am I like? Even food can be really a coping mechanism of stress, of anxiety, of not wanting to do something. Like you could be in a fight with your boyfriend and it's like, what do you want to eat? And it's because you don't want to dive deep. Like you don't want to get into it. But if we're like, just, okay, show up as humans and we do dive into it, then that's good. And I'm a big fan of fasting. I've done a 3-day fast, almost 3 days. I made it about 60 something hours. And I'll tell you the mental clarity, because food can do it too, just like alcohol.
Do you, when you fast, do you do anything to prepare yourself for the fast? And when you break that fast, what do you move into? Like, how do you eat following that?
Yeah. So if you're doing more than 24 hours, I think 24 hours are great to start for people. But when you get to 42 to 70 or 48 to 72, it's best to prepare with having a partner to do it with. So you don't want to do it when you're a significant other or say a friend that you could text and say, hey, how are you doing? Get lots of water with electrolytes. I stock my fridge with like, we had, what's it called? Sparkling water in the fridge, like our favorite kind. So that way that was like dinner. And then I kind of loaded my schedule up. Like I literally was like, I'm going to work like all day. I didn't want to do it on a weekend. I would like go to the gym after work and just do yoga, and stretch. And then I would come home and read a book and go to bed. Like it was like, I tried to make sure like I didn't have a lot of downtime. I will say when I was at the office, I would walk outside at lunchtime and just get some fresh air and put a meditation on. And then when you're breaking the fast, the best is to start slow. So like a bone broth or a soup, and then kind of get into like the heavier stuff. I went into a women's retreat right after, and it was very interesting because they just had like a plethora of food. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm hungry. I'm like, I've been starving. I couldn't wait to eat. And then it's like all in front of you. And then I was like, I don't know what to eat. Like you're just like paralyzed. I was just like, I don't know right now. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
And
you,
we've done it. Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say, do you eat like a certain way like the day before you start your fast?
So it's good to eat light the day before. But I just try not to like you don't want to like starve yourself the day before because then it feels like you started ahead of time. I will say something like a semaglutide or tirzepatide, people be like, that's cheating if you take it with that. I mean, you could take a small dose of it. I don't think it would be. But you do just want to watch your insulin levels if you do it that way, because, you know, you can have a little bit of low blood sugar, but drinking lots of water is key. Like that is literally the key. My husband has done it like way more times than me. He's like, he wanted to do another one recently and I made it like 24 hours in and I was like, I hate this right now. Like it was so much harder. I don't know why. So each time it's like, it's been different. He's done 5 days though.
Wow.
I know. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm so proud of you, but like, dear God.
Wow, that's really good though.
Yeah, it's mental. It's all mental. And I listened to some pretty interesting podcasts on food and they talk about the same thing as it's just a crutch. Like we're usually, like you said, childhood trauma. There's usually something related to why we eat the way we eat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I even, it's I have a lot of food sensitivities, no food allergies. Total
Hmm.
I mean, I've had panels done, from blood work to muscle testing to whatever kinds of little testings that they've done. And it's all sensitivities. And you even mentioned water. So interesting story. I was doing some muscle testing and she did it for all the food and stuff. And then she did it for water and she did it for like my own stomach acid. And I had sensitivities to my own stomach acid and I had sensitivity to water. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, I always have to have water on me. I mean, you've seen me, like, literally, I have water with me all the time. And she goes, I was like, I drink water all the time. And she goes, did you almost drown? Have you ever almost drowned? And I was like, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was like, when I was like two, I was with my sister and my mom at a neighborhood pool. And I think I just like threw myself in. I don't know, but I remember when you're this young, you don't usually remember things. I don't remember the thing. I just remembered the image of me looking up through the water and seeing the sun hit the top of the pool water. I don't know. Maybe I was like an angel at that moment. I have no idea. I don't like it was maybe an outer body experience. I have no idea.
No, I mean,
But like my mom jumped in, got me and, whacked my back and water came out and everything. And I was fine. But because I don't remember any of that though, of course. I mean, that's just from story of her telling me. But so when I told the specialist this, she was like, yeah, she said literally like every single person that has a sensitivity to water, they have had a near drowning experience. So it is all trauma, it's energy, it's emotion, it's all that. And I'm like, cool. So basically, like gluten, corn, soy, dairy, like all these things, I do eat it, but I get like congested kind of feeling, or I'm I have some type of inflammation. Something doesn't feel great with me.
yeah. Well, and what's crazy is I love that you told that story because it is, I mean, I got chills when you said it because it was the trauma related to it, obviously. And we just push so much of that down. We don't experience it, but that's what breath work does. That's what these medicine journeys can do. They can bring them to surface and then you can work through them. Like even just shaking your body out, we store so much in our hips and dancing. And that's why yoga can open up a lot of that. But when it comes to foods, there's just so much crap in our food. And so it's like we're sensitive to the crap that our body doesn't know how to process. Like it literally doesn't. The reason like people get the way they do with alcohol and swollen or certain foods is because our body isn't supposed to eat it because it doesn't know what to do with it because it's like car engine oil. It's
Mhm.
literally like an additive that's not meant to be in the food. So whole food is always like, the best. I know for your gluten allergy, like I wonder if like you ate sourdough bread, versus
I've tried. Yeah.
yeah.
Like half of a loaf of sourdough bread back in May. It was right after, well, no, the weekend of Atlanta Swim Week, which I walked in. I had a girlfriend in town and I was like, what do you eat for breakfast? Let me go grocery shopping for you. And she was like, I do avocado toast. Like, that's fine. She was like, get me some sourdough, whatever. And I hadn't had bread in forever. And I was like, I know sourdough is the better of the breads. And I was like, okay. So I like would have avocado toast with her every day. And I had full-blown rashes under both of my
Yeah.
armpits like 3 days later. And I was like, oh my God, I'm glad that this did not happen during the show. That would have been
Literally. Literally. Well, and not all sourdough is created equal, I will say, because I had some the other week and I was like, ugh, but you just might have that allergy that you've got to work through. But what happens is we get sensitive to something, we don't expose to it, and then we push away, and then the allergy can get worse. And that's why there was this massive influx of peanut allergies, because parents were like not eating peanuts while the kids were in the womb. And now all of a sudden, all these kids are allergic to peanuts and having anaphylactic reactions because they're like, oh my God, they had a peanut, they turned red. And like at the time they didn't know, and they would pull peanuts away, and then the kid will not be exposed for 5 years, get a peanut full blown there, and so the way to actually treat allergies now, and a lot of like more holistic allergists will do this is, well, they'll do small doses of things.
Yeah, I've heard. Uh-huh. Huh.
So, and then just working through that, but maybe working through some of your trauma, through like your breath work and just your coaching and stuff, and, becoming more aligned with yourself. You'll notice that some of that stuff, our skin is our largest organ, and it shows what's happening on the inside. So any rash, any people see eczema, psoriasis, breakouts, like that's what's happening internally. It's just exposing itself to you. Hair loss, that's you'll see med students exam week, clumps of hair,
Yeah.
and it's stress.
Oh yeah. That's so interesting. I mean, yeah,
It is.
I got lots of shit going on.
It's funny when you see those like super spiritual people, you're like, why do you look like such an animal? Like you look perfect. Like their hair is glowing, their skin, and they're like, because they worked through everything. By the way, not that they didn't have anything, and they just constantly work on things,
That is very true. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
guess I have to continue to
Well,
purge.
we all do. We'll do it together. We'll keep each other accountable.
Okay.
We'll do it together.
Thank you so much. I know you and I could talk forever. But
Literally.
yeah, literally. But thank you so much for being here, sharing your expertise on everything. It was very eye-opening again for me to hear this even for a second time about the peptides. Loved learning your marriage story. So great. And just your journey and your life story altogether. It's very I love that you went in, towards the entrepreneurship, and you're doing great things out there, and you are like, I'll have you tell them where people can find you, but like follow her. She really is walking the walk, not just talking about. I'm grateful to be able to witness that and know you personally. So
Well, thank
where
you, Kelly. No,
everybody finds you and all that.
yeah, and I feel the same way. I'm just so grateful to have talked with you. Like I said, we could talk forever, and but it's fun posting on social, and I'm always open to like hearing what people want to learn more about, because I never know. I try and always study. I'm always a student. I'm constantly listening to podcasts and trying to learn more myself. But yeah, social is Heath and Wellness, like health and wellness, but my name's Heather, so Heath. And then if you want any good red BioLites, good hacks for collagen, good all that stuff, peptides, I can help point you in the right direction. But yeah, it was an honor, Kelly, and have fun on your trip. I can't wait to hear how it went, how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Yay.